The next generation of VR is nearly here, and we are at the brink of a new wave and new type of headset that really could help shape the future of VR. But a question that I keep seeing pop up is, how is this different from the Quest? And to be honest, that's a good point. The Quest is still an incredible, capable headset, and in reality is pretty much as capable, and in some ways more capable than the Steam Frame. And for those on the fence, this video may tip you one way or the other. So let's see how the Quest matches up to some of the Steam Frame's capabilities. Apart from the obvious, which is the Steam Frame not being a meta product, the Quest is actually on par with a lot of what the Steam Frame can do. And I feel the best place to start is by going through what's similar and ending with what, well, isn't. And that starts with what most would consider the most important, and that's display and lenses. The Steam Frame and the Quest 3 feature a very similar display stack, both using pancake lenses, high-resolution LCD panels, meaning image sharpness is expected to be comparable despite different resolutions. And if you do the math, the difference to resolution is about 2% better on the Steam Frame. In other words, you won't notice a thing. I think for me, this was the biggest bummer. I've been testing out the Pimax Dream Air with about 3 times the pixel count, and it's micro OLED, so things just look way better. That was the direction I was hoping the Steam Frame would go, but if the displays are the reason from going from a Quest to the Frame, I wouldn't bother. Most games will look roughly the same in terms of clarity. For PCVR titles, this will also be incredibly similar, because of what I just mentioned. I've been using the Quest 3 over the link cable for the last few years now, and the experience is pretty good. It's consistent, which is pretty rare in the VR space. The Air Link is also pretty good if you have good Wi-Fi, which is the Steam Frame's main selling point. But there are edge cases here. I do have good internet, 6 GHz, and I work right next to my router. However, the Quest is not perfect over Air Link. It does have inconsistencies. Using the Meta interface does seem to work better than running Steam VR, but in the case of wireless PCVR, the Steam Frame will no doubt be more consistent here. It will have better latency, higher refresh rates. The dongle that comes with the Steam Frame is designed for a more flawless, non-experimental experience, whereas the Quest Air Link still feels like an experiment. The Steam Frame also has dynamic foveated streaming using the eye tracking cameras, and that will also give better refresh rates and lower latency. So basically, in short, if you're happy using a wire attached to your PC, Quest is still on par, but it starts to distance themselves once you lose the cable. Standalone gaming is also something that will be kind of unique for each platform in different ways. One of the selling points for the Steam Frame is the ability to play PC games on the frame without a PC, as in standalone on the device. But believe it or not, this actually is possible on the Quest using something called Winolator. It basically lets the Quest 3 run Windows PC games directly on the headset by translating x86 Windows games to run on its ARM processor, in real time using technologies like Wine and FX. The Steam Frame builds on this idea. Instead of running it through Android, it uses SteamOS with native FX support and Proton, giving it direct access to a much larger library of PC games with the potential for better compatibility and performance. They both had the same goal, and both can play older games actually quite well. But the main difference is one is designed specifically to play PC games, and the other is a workaround. While you definitely can play PC games on the Quest, don't expect a good experience. Plus, Winolator isn't a native app, you'll need to enable developer mode and sideload it using something like SideQuest. But moving back to VR, standalone VR is what the Quest was built for. Meta has spent years building that ecosystem, resulting in a huge library of standalone VR games and experiences. Because of that, at least initially, it's likely to dwarf the number of standalone VR titles available on the Steam Frame. That's because Quest games aren't just going to work on the Steam Frame, they're built as Android applications using Meta's SDK and runtime. Steam Frame is expected to run SteamOS, so developers will need to port their games to run on the new platform. Over time, if Steam Frame proves popular, more developers are likely to bring their games across. But on day one, don't expect the same standalone VR library you're used to on the Quest, and unfortunately don't expect those titles to be cross-purchased. You'll likely have to buy the same game twice if you want them on both platforms. I also wouldn't expect the initial wave of games to look dramatically better than they do on the Quest. Since the display resolution is essentially the same, they won't suddenly look sharper. Where the Steam Frame has the advantage is its extra horsepower, with a more powerful CPU, GPU, plus double the RAM. Developers have far more headroom to improve textures, lighting, effects, physics and draw distances. So while at first ports may look very similar to the Quest, over time we could start to see Steam Frame versions that are noticeably more impressive. But let's talk about two of the biggest things that separate both of these headsets, and they're things you just won't be able to do on both of them. The first is augmented reality. Now the Steam Frame is tracked the same way as the Quest 3 using external cameras, but you're limited to a very blurry monochromatic pass-through. The Quest pass-through is colour and about 3 times sharper. That doesn't mean the Quest pass-through is sharp, it just means it's usable. The Steam Frames really isn't usable for anything other than not walking into your wall. This clearly is intentional though, and to save on cost in what they actually want the Steam Frame to be used for. But it does mean the Steam Frame will miss out on some insane games and mixed reality experiences. It would have been nice to have some sort of presence, especially with some of the promo footage shows a clear colour pass-through, but in reality it's blurry and black and white. The Quest 3 definitely wins here. There are a load of cool mixed reality experiences, and I rarely use the home environment outside of mixed reality. It's just one of those things that are nice to have. But the last thing I wanted to talk about, and is probably the thing that sold me the most on the Steam Frame, is the freedom of use. With the Quest 3 you can absolutely do a lot, but it often feels like you're working around the platform rather than with it. If you want to sideload apps and install unofficial software or heavily customize the experience, there's usually a hurdle to jump through. It kind of feels like you could break the device at any time. The friction comes from the platform itself, and that kind of makes sense. It's a console, it's not a PC. But the Steam Frame is the complete opposite. It kind of is a PC. Valve isn't trying to stop you from making it your own. Want custom boot screens, a completely personalised home environment, emulators, community tools, mods, custom launches, different storefronts? It's all going to be there if you want it. And I think that's what makes it so exciting. It's not just a headset you buy the way the manufacturer intended, it's a headset that you can shape into whatever you want it to be. Whether it's a standalone VR headset, a portable PC gaming machine, a retro emulator, or something completely different, the choice is yours. But again, that comes at a cost, literally. The Quest can subsidise itself because of the sales on the Horizon store. The Steam Frame can't, and that was the case with the Steam Machine. That's why you're seeing prices be so high. Obviously, RAM prices don't help, but Valve doesn't want to make a loss on their hardware. The Quest is exceptional value, and even though it's tied to a Facebook ecosystem, it's still a headset worth double its cost. I wouldn't be surprised if the frame is worth north of $1,000, and because the Quest has given such great value, that price will be hard to justify. That being said, what will you do? What will you buy? Let me know down in the comments section below. If you want to check out more Steam Frame videos, check out these ones here. Like and subscribe if you enjoyed today's video, and as always, I'll catch you on the next one.